an Australian biotech company is developing patch dispensers aimed at solving vaccine distribution issues across the world. The patch could replace the need for vaccinations with a needle and has proved effective against all major variants of COVID-19 in an early trial used on mice. Let's bring you all the details live now with Chris Griffith, the technology reporter at the Australian newspaper. Chris, really appreciate your time. Just take us through this. How would it work? People could self-administer it, I understand.
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of really fascinating things about this. The first is that this particular vaccine used in the vaccine patches, called Hexapro, with this test has managed to be neutralising in all the major variants. Now, we haven't had, in fact, I didn't believe this when I was told it by David Hoy, the CEO of Vaxxas, the company that produces these little patches, and they look like this, if you can see. They're only about 3 centimetres across and about 12 millimetres deep. And but that was the first sensational thing, was the fact that there was this claim that it had worked against all the variants, and that's unprecedented for what our experience has been. But it is only with mice. The reason they claim it worked in the paper they produced is because of the way the patch has thousands of little holes at the bottom. So it's squirting this vaccine. You press down that patch on it for about 10 seconds on your skin, and it squirts that vaccine into the skin rather than have a needle into the muscle. And apparently that's really amplified the impact of the vaccine and the immune response. And they did the test using a needle, and they did the test using the patch, and the patch came up, but the needle version didn't. But the patch works by, as I've just said, you put that little cylinder. It looks like a miniature version of a tuna can, the small tuna cans you might buy at the supermarket, and you put your finger on the top of it, press down, and that releases the vaccine. Now, the vaccine gets into there in the first place because what they do is they get the vaccine, mix it up with a sugar substance, so it becomes a crystal. The vaccine is, if you like, entombed in that crystal on the patch, and then when you press it down and the contact with the skin releases it. So you need vaccines that are capable of surviving in that condition. Now, this vaccine, Hexapro, is a protein-based vaccine. It's a bit like Novavax. That's the only protein-based vaccines that we're actually using commonly. The others, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Moderna, are either vector-based or message RNA vaccines. And so that makes this really hardy. And they're saying that they can actually post these little vaccine things out to people so they can self-administer them, or if they need to be done under supervision, they can be done without necessarily being directly a doctor that watches the administration or administers that patch. It's up to you. But I think one of the really interesting things is that it's going to hopefully make it easier to get these vaccines into the developing world, which is really important to us because we're going to keep getting these coronavirus strains and strains of other vaccines starting in countries where there's not a lot of vaccination. That's where you get the mutations in the first place. So it's important for us here in Australia to help those countries have wide vaccination. Yeah.
And also for parents of children who hate getting needles. I mean, it'd be great to be able to stick a patch on a child who doesn't want to go into the GP for a vaccination. It all does sound really exciting, Chris, but as you point out, we've only seen these trials in mice so far, and we know that often what works in mice doesn't translate so well to humans. Just how early are we here in terms of clinical trials? If all goes to plan, how early could we all use these?
Well, yeah, you're right. You're dead right. We can't get too excited and carried away at this stage. They're still talking about a 3-year time period to complete all their trials. And, you know, they're not just involved with, this is Vaxxas, the patch maker, they're not just involved with COVID, but they're producing a flu pandemic vaccine for the US government, a seasonal flu, measles, rubella, typhoid, and also a collaboration with Merck, the US pharma's big biotech company there. So it's going to take time. But, all the indications are that we're going to have COVID around for a long time. There's been papers talking about it becoming a perennial issue, that we're just going to have to grit and bear it for time going ahead. I guess we can, but, I think we all would like to see that period go in time. And so therefore, these guys are pitching for the medium longer term, not necessarily trying to solve things for tomorrow. So they're talking about 3 years. They've got a facility that they're adapting now in Hamilton, Brisbane, where they want to do more research. And also it's going to be their first manufacture base. And they're talking about 300 million of these little, producing 300 millions of these little patch dispensers per annum when they get to their full production there and elsewhere. So it's a longer term thing, but it may well be that patches within a few years can make the whole vaccination process a lot simpler and aid the distribution process. And I think that becomes really, really important in our global world, where we're all connected, but we're all connected with each other's bugs as well. And we've seen that in the past few years, of course.
Aren't we also lucky to have such clever people in the world coming up with such amazing ideas?
It's always good to
really appreciate you bringing us up to date with. It is, yeah, it's a fascinating one. We hope it all works out. Chris, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.